What's up, everybody? It's Tim here from Mad Gear Arcade, and today we are ranking all 7 of the studio albums of my favorite band, Static X. Now, for those of you who don't know about them, here's a brief rundown about them. Static X is an industrial nu metal band from Los Angeles where all the big and successful bands come out of. They originally were known as Drill and had a different guitarist by the name of Emerson Swimford, but when he left, he was replaced by Koichi Fukuda, and the band renamed themselves Static, and later Static X. The band's lineup would frequently change over the years. However, the original lineup consisted of frontman Wayne Static, guitarist Koichi Fukuda, bassist Tony Campos, and drummer Ken J. After their first album, guitarist Koichi would leave the band and be replaced by former Dope guitarist Trip Rex Eisen. And after their second album, drummer Ken would depart from the lineup and be replaced by ex-Seether drummer Nick Oshiro. The band certainly had no shortage of drama over the years, like in 2005 when then-guitarist Trip was arrested due to a sex scandal involving minors and was later fired from the band. Luckily for them, original guitarist Koichi had returned to contribute with the electronic programming sounds for the then upcoming album, and was more than happy to return to his former spot in the band. However, in 2009, the band slowly began to fall apart. Guitarist Koichi wanted to focus on starting a family with his wife, and drummer Nick would leave the band due to his newly found sobriety, as well as bassist and longtime member Tony due to the band becoming, as he described, a toxic environment. The band would go on hiatus while frontman Wayne would release his solo album Pighammer in 2011. In 2012, Wayne Static officially announced that the initial band was no more and eventually started touring under the Static X name, with him being the only original member. Sadly, in 2014, Static tragically passed away due to a combination of excessive prescription drugs and alcohol in his system, and at that point, any hope of the band reuniting seemed lost. However, in 2018, original members Tony, Koichi, and Ken reunited in a celebration for the 20th anniversary of the band's debut in an effort entitled Project Regeneration. With the blessing of Static's family, it involved a worldwide tour as well as a new album featuring unused vocal tracks from Wayne, as well as a new mysterious vocalist Zero, whose identity to this day is still come on, it's Dope, we all know that. The effort was such an overwhelming success that the band decided to continue on with a new record coming hopefully later this year. And with that being said, let's get right into the countdown. Starting off our list at number 7, we have Start a War. Released in 2005, the band was definitely going through an identity crisis of sorts, trying to go back towards their old sound while maintaining the whole mainstream sounding vibe of their previous effort proved to be a miss. For one, Wayne's vocals just sound irritating and none of the songs really stand out. It's not terrible or even bad, just disappointing. The Enemy's a solid opener, and I'm the One is a step up from the previous album singles. Pieces has a crushing intro and even features a guitar solo for the first time in the band's career. My favorite track's probably Otsego Amigo, but even that, it's just sort of a sweet, short but sweet filler song. Least favorite tracks are Dirt House and I Wanna Fucking Break It, but everything else is at least tolerable. Brain Fog is a cool instrumental closer with electronic elements, and yeah. Start a War, least favorite album, but still fairly decent. 3 out of 5. Coming in at number 6 is Shadow Zone. Released in 2003 after the Warner Brothers executives heard Wayne's more melodic vocals on the Queen of the Damned soundtrack, they were like, we want more of this. And so they paired the band with producer Josh Abraham, who at the time was known for working with more mainstream artists like Linkin Park, Stain, and Evanescence. So this was supposed to be their big money mainstream record that was going to expand the band's audience. Unfortunately, the album sold even less than their previous efforts, not even going gold. The album starts off slow with its opener Destroy All, but picks up the pace with tracks like Control It and New Pain. The title track Shadow Zone features a disco beat similar to Korn's Got the Life, only this sounds like a cheap knockoff, and easily, along with Monster, are probably my least favorite tracks on the record. The Only is a decent first single, at least in terms of trying something new. All in Weight is a straight up banger and probably my favorite track. So is definitely a song geared more towards the Linkin Park crowd, and it's probably one of the worst ideas the band's ever come up with. But the album does end on a strong note with Invincible that contains a really cool drum beat. So yeah, Shadow Zone, not a bad record, but the band definitely shot themselves in the foot on this one. 3 out of 5. At number 5, we have Cult of Static. Released in 2009, this would be the second of 2 albums not to feature producer Ulrich Wilde, and on this record, it definitely shows. All was not well in Static X land during this time. The band was falling apart mostly due to Wayne's growing drug habits, which left a very unfinished feeling on a bunch of the tracks. Most of them just faded out with any sort of closure to them whatsoever. However, in my opinion, Cult of Static sounds more like the older Static X albums, with the band finally bringing back the whole evil disco sound that was missing for years. Unfortunately, that's the only thing saving the record from being a disaster. Lunatic is probably my favorite track on here, and one hell of an opener that was even featured on the soundtrack for the movie Punisher Warzone. Terminal and Hypature are both solid tracks. Stingray is a pretty good single that has the classic Static feel to it, even if the production isn't that great. You and I and Skinned are both great heavy tracks that I find myself rocking out to every time I play them. Isolator and Closer Grind to a Halt aren't bad, but really rough around the edges. My least favorite tracks are Z28 and Terrified. I think they're both shit. But yeah, Cult of Static, 3 out of 5. At number 4, we have Cannibal. Released in 2007, the record was definitely a step up from the previous 2 albums. The band was finally breaking out of their mainstream radio-friendly phase and getting back to what made the band great in the first place. There's elements of their classic evil disco sound and the track like Behemoth, which is hands down my favorite track on the album and really a throwback to their earlier material, as well as venturing towards a more thrash-like sound with tracks like No Submission, Chemical Logic, and of course the title track Cannibal. Other tracks I enjoy are 40 Ways, Cuts You Up, and Goat, but tracks like Destroyer and Reptile are kinda weak. So yeah, while Cannibal isn't great, it does create a solid union of sounds that's a big step up towards that awkward phase the band was in. 3 out of 5.